All right, everybody. This is Etienne Marceau, with the Sports Inquirer, and we are joined by Kennesaw State volleyball head coach Keith Schunzel as the no, not Panthers, the Owls progress through
Oh
their
my God, come
this
on.
rookie mistake there. I apologize. I apologize. But no, the Owls are progressing through their season and everything that is going on. So we're so happy to be joined by him and everything that is going on with the squad. All right, let's get him back on there. There we go. All right. So Keith, the team is off to a 4-1 start overall this season. Just some positives that we've seen. Just watched the South Carolina State match. So before we get into some specifics, where do you see the Owls right now, and just how things are progressing with the team?
It's been good so far. I feel like we're making progress. I feel like really each week since we checked in, early August, I feel like, and we already had a pretty mature, experienced group coming back, certainly from last year's team. But I just feel like we're getting a little smoother. We're reducing some errors. I feel like we've kind of honed in on the lineup that we need to be in now, which is always a good feeling. Where I don't feel like we're really all over the place with lineup decisions and trying to figure out how we're the best right now. So that's been nice. And I feel like the girls are just training really hard. It's been really consistent, focused training, which is always really important because at this point of the year, you do need to be improving, right? Late in the year, as October, November rolls around, you just need to be playing pretty well and hopefully as healthy as possible. But right now, you got to be improving and you got to be fixing some things that you're not doing well. You got to be adding some pieces maybe to the offense or the defense. And I feel like we're doing all those things. It certainly have been far from perfect, but as is sports and life. But there's been a lot of really good things. It's been a lot of fun. I'm really encouraged by a lot of stuff we're seeing.
Yeah, and as I was mentioning, I just watched the South Carolina match from South Carolina State match, your past contest. Just some highlights I noticed from that. Your service game has been tremendous over the start of this season, and then Caroline Chastang had 5 aces in that contest, and they were talking about the development of a jump serve in the broadcast. I don't know if that was accurate, but you had double-digit aces, I believe, in both those South Carolina State contests. How valuable is that ace or the serving as part of your offense, and just specifically Caroline just being very productive in that portion of the game for you?
Our serve is definitely going to be one of our strengths. Now, what might limit us, we are a very aggressive serving team. What may limit us is if we become high error with that aggressive serving. The first night against South Carolina State, I believe we had 13 aces, but we also had 15 errors. Which is 5% in a three-set match, obviously. So that's too many. I think what we're shooting for is about an ace to every maybe 1.5 errors, somewhere in there, right? So if you get an ace, then maybe there's a couple errors mixed in there. So um, I really like how we serve. I think we're doing a good job. We have the right mentality behind the service line, right? We don't have players go up and hesitating with their serve. We don't have players overthinking necessarily the serve. There are times when we have to get some players to back off with how aggressive they are with their serve if we've made a few errors in a short period of time. But I do like what I'm seeing back there. I think it's probably one of the strengths of this team. Chastang is hitting a jump top right now and finally found it. The first weekend she made a bunch of errors and we had our other outside in that spot, Kiernan, jump float and serve instead of Caroline. But we definitely want to have Caroline as an option. If she's tossing that thing out in front of her and really reaching high and hitting it hard and deep, it's a really, really good hard serve to pass. It's got a little side spin tail on it, and it's a pretty high level serve. So we're gonna keep letting her have the green light for the most part, and if it doesn't seem like she's hitting it well with her hand, or if she doesn't have a whole lot of confidence in that moment, then we'll certainly let Kiernan serve because she's serving it well. But no, Caroline had a great serving day on Sunday, and she has that capability to rack up a bunch of serves because she is hitting the stink out of it.
Yeah, you cut your errors in half from Saturday to Sunday. You had double digits, but yeah, you had like it's 14. I think you only had like 6 or 7 on
Yep.
Sunday. Was that just a different approach, just better execution, or did
Yeah.
you actually just that 24-hour period kind of go to the team and say, hey, we got to just kind of limit these errors here? Was it just a different approach?
We talked about it at film on Sunday morning as we were preparing for the game, and that was one of the things we said. Listen, we got to execute a little better. We want to be aggressive. And South Carolina State wasn't a very good passing team, and so while we could have gotten away with just chipping the ball in and just making no errors, I don't think that's how we need to be playing. I don't think that plays to our strength, and so we want our team to be aggressive. But yeah, to your point, I think we just executed behind the service line better. Maybe took a slightly less risk and maybe just hit some more consistent. We had a number of times where on Saturday we'd have an ace and then we'd miss the next ball, or we'd maybe have a good serve, have an ace, and then we'd miss the next ball. And we can't let teams off. We have to make them side out, especially if we get an ace, then the next ball or two needs to be in, whether you get an ace or not, to make them side out. We did that much better on Sunday.
Yeah, and just offensively, you had Haley, Manu, and Olivia. I think each have close to double digits in both matches, but including on Sunday. I want to highlight too, just Haley. Seemed like that was a breakout match for her. She led the team in kills, reached double digits. Just what about that performance from her? And is that just kind of expectations? Like if she consistently plays at that level, that will take the team to a strong way. And then I want to hit on Manu a little bit later, but let's start with Haley and just her performance.
Well, Kaylee's going to go up and down a little bit like this because while she is a third-year player, she is a freshman right side. Our first year, she played some middle. She was training middle and right. We had an all-conference level right side, Emma Scherfranz. And Haley didn't play a lot as a freshman. She played a little bit here and there, but not a huge role, and more in the middle than on the right. And then she got hurt her sophomore year. So she tore ACL, and so she redshirted. So this is her first time as an elite player on the right side as somebody with a big role for us, and she has worked her butt off to obviously get healthy again. It's a long rehab. She's fit. She's jumping well. And she's got one of the best arms on our team. She has a lightning fast arm. And for her, the challenge is just going to be the experience and getting the game experience and learning, okay, when teams are taking this away, I need to hit this. When this set is a certain place and my feet are here, I need to make this choice. A lot of it for her is learning how to play the right side position at a high level. And again, she's a freshman right side in many ways here, but we're going to lean heavily on her because she's one of our best athletes. She's one of our best arms. She's one of our most competitive players. And so I would expect some up and down out of her. I would expect it. Same thing. I think Mercer, she had a big game. Or maybe it was the game before that. And I think then she struggled the next game, right? And I think she's just going to have some really nice matches, and she's going to have some where she's struggling a bit. And that's okay. That's all part of it. If she was a senior doing this after 3 years, starting on the right side with her capabilities, it'd be a little more concerning, but I'm thrilled with where she's at and how she's playing.
Yeah, and then Manu, just watching that match, just we don't talk so much about two-way players. We talk about so much with the outside, so much about they focus so much on the outside, but she was all over the court. It was really marvel to see, just hitting down the middle, hitting on the side, getting digs. I mean, what is it like having a talent like that? And she's obviously an all-time player for you, moving up the charts as far as the statistics. But just seeing that match and her being just all over, like just a contributor. How big is that to have a player like that on your roster?
And that's been the kind of the final collegiate progression for her. She came in as a nice attacker, as a really good jumper, certainly strong, could move the ball, could kill the ball. She has become and is continuing to become a much better ball handler, somebody who's reading the game on defense. Everybody serves her because she's our best attacker, so she's going to have to take a load passing, and she has become a better passer. She's almost passing a 2.0 on a 3.0 scale, which is where we need her to be. Early in her career, she was passing about a 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 level, right, which is pretty low. And so she's become a much better all-around player, which is critical. And as you said, in the outside hitter position, you have to be able to play the whole game. And that has been her biggest steps forward. The other thing that she's doing is she has really limited so many errors. I mean, she makes very few bad decisions as an attacker now. She knows when to off speed. She plays the ball high to the corner. She hits it off the block. Maybe she tips it in the middle in the donut. And she's still going up and crushing the ball when that's the appropriate choice, when that's the play. So she's doing some really impressive things offensively every single day that you kind of get used to seeing it. And when she makes an error, you like, wow, I haven't seen that in a little bit, right? And maybe she hits it low into the block or just a bad miss, but because there's so few of those now from her offensively. But her biggest progression has been the pass, the block, the defense, the ball handle. She is moving more like a back row player now. She is moving more like a passer. And earlier in her career, she did not look like that.
Yeah, and I'm watching the broadcast as well. Talking about, you mentioned the lineup, playing a 6-2 with your two setters out there with Brown and Walz. How are you liking that lineup? You mentioned you're kind of solidifying some positions, but how's that 6-2 working out for you so far? And obviously, it's a long season. I'm sure we're going to see some different lineups. But what about this 6-2 that you're running, and how it's executing so far at this junction of the year?
With our personnel, our personnel and our roster, how we're built right now, we got a bunch of different pin hitters that all can do some nice things physically, good arms, good height, big on the block. And so we've been looking at our team here the last couple of years. I've never run a 6-2 anywhere I've ever coached. Certainly in our first 11 years here, we did not run. We were always in a 5-1 every year with one setter. But we have two setters that are pretty close to each other. And then we just have a lot of good pin hitters. And so we just thought, okay, what's the best way to get the most kids opportunities to kill the ball, for us to be the most physical, for us to use the strengths of both of our setters. And we just kept coming to the conclusion. I think 6-2 is how this team is built. And last year we tried to run a 5-1 at different times and it never felt right. We haven't tried yet this fall. And maybe, as you said, as the season goes on, lots of things happen between people in slumps and injuries and, just all sorts of things happen. These are long, tough seasons, lots of games. But I think for the moment and with how this team is built, the 6-2 feels best. And the other thing that I think is we're a good passing team. We've gotten better. We are not an elite passing team. We do not pass this crazy high number of balls right to the net, right to target. And when you pass the ball off the net a little bit, if you're in a 6-2, you always have a right front and a left front hitter, right? And so that is at least going to help us diversify our offense. When you're in a 5-1, 3 of your rotations, your setter's in the front row, right front, meaning you don't have a right side hitter. So you then mostly play out to the left side and you become very one-dimensional. And so we just think with all things included, personnel, roster, how we handle the ball, where our setters are at, it just makes a lot of sense. And I like it. I feel like we're pretty tough to prepare for. I feel like we're pretty tough to defend. I feel like we have a lot of different arms coming at you in different ways. And I think it's going to help us as we go here.
Yeah, and once again with Keith Schunzel, head coach of Kennesaw State volleyball. They're not they are the Owls. But even that South Carolina State match, at least the last one, I was looking at the box score and watching the match, of course. I think you saw 13 players see time officially. I don't know if that number's right, but I think it's 13. That's kind of, yeah, 13. Yeah, I mean that's pretty big for you to. I'm sure everyone that was maybe healthy or was able to play. I'm pretty sure got some time in. How valuable is that, especially coming into this invitational with a team like Michigan State that you're welcoming them in? So I think everyone at some point that's been healthy, I'm sure has been able to play. But didn't that match specifically, getting 13 players in, I'm sure was very beneficial for
I
you.
think we're going to end up playing, 11, 12, 13 most nights, between serving subs. We have 3 right sides who are all pretty close to each other between Patterson, Ashlyn Anderson, the sophomore lefty, the big 6'3" lefty, and then Maggie Bukovich, who's a 6'3" senior right side. So we have 3 of those women that are all playing good volleyball and that we can rotate through. We're about to get our 3rd middle back. Ava Garner is full practicing now here for about a week, and then we may see her this weekend actually. And so we're just deep in some spots, and even on the left side, right now Caroline Chastang is playing back row for Kieran Stamey, but Caroline yesterday at practice, she was probably our best left side attacker. And so there is definitely going to be times where we're going to let her play through the front row. If Kieran's struggling or needs a break, or if just we want to get Caroline some front row reps up there and let her hit in the front row. So we're just, I think we have a deep team. I think we have a lot of players that can do things at a high level. And so you're going to see a pretty big number of players playing most matches, which is fun. It also keeps your players engaged. Hopefully it helps with health as we go, where we're not just leaning on the same 7 or 8 players to take, the brunt of the jumping and the hitting, because that wears on you on these seasons. And so as long as the team is bought in that whoever's out there, it's your time, go, and everybody else is going to support you. As long as they're bought in, having teams like this can be really beneficial in these seasons.
Yeah, and then lastly, once again, speaking with Keith Schunzel, head coach of Kennesaw State Volleyball. You have your invitational, obviously your home invitational or home tournament's always exciting for you and the fans and supporters of the program. And you open up with Michigan State, a Big Ten program that's obviously going to bring a lot to Kennesaw. How's the preparations been? You mentioned practice and just some players emerging for preparations, but how have they been for this invitational? And once again, getting a Big Ten program like Michigan State to come to Kennesaw, I'm sure is a pretty exciting moment for you and the program.
Sure, we've been fortunate through the years that we've been able to get quite a few teams here. I think certainly Atlanta's easy to get in and out of. A lot of people recruit from Atlanta, so there's players on a lot of teams throughout the country from this area. But yeah, are we excited about Kelsey, Coach Kelsey bringing our team down? 100%. They are a good, solid Big Ten team. I mean, they're going to have athletes. They have a really nice setter. They got a bunch of big, good arms, and this is going to be a really hard challenge for us. But this is where we've kind of put our program for years. We haven't shied away. We haven't necessarily played a schedule where I knew we'd rack up tons of wins just to get wins. Our first couple of years here, 13 years ago, 12 years ago, we did that a little bit because we didn't quite have the players, the athlete, the culture, the tradition, you name it. And we were just trying to build. But as we've gotten better and better, and through the last many years, we've tried to schedule really tough, and Michigan State's no different. Indiana was in here last year. We played Georgia Tech here a number of times, Clemson, Georgia. I mean, so we're not shying away from that stuff. Now these are really hard games to win, but these are fun games. These are exciting games for our players and for our fans. And so we'll be ready, but this will be a tall challenge for us, but then it's not going to get easier. I wouldn't be surprised if App State is potentially the best team here this weekend. I don't know. They're 6-0 right now and already beat VCU, who's a perennial high mid-major team, and they beat Virginia. So App State's no slouch. And then Troy last year beat us at their place, and those guys do a great job with their team and competing and training them. So it's going to be 3 really tough games this weekend, but again, I would much rather have that than just these games where I know we're going to get a win, but we're not going to be pushed a whole lot. And I don't think that really long-term does a whole lot for anybody. So we'll be excited. We'll be ready to play. But tomorrow is going to be the first of 3 pretty tough challenges here.
Yeah, looking forward to watching that and everything with the Kennesaw State volleyball. Keith, we appreciate the time. Thank you, and good luck this weekend. Hopefully, we can catch up later on in the season.
Thanks, Marcel. Appreciate it.
All right, this is Etienne Morris with the Sports Inquirer. Yeah, we just had Keith. You just heard him. I appreciate him giving us time when the Panthers are preparing to host Michigan State on September 11th. And obviously, you mentioned playing App State and Troy. Obviously, 2 very strong Sunbelt Conference teams. We're familiar with them, of course, with our coverage of Georgia State volleyball. And I did call them the Panthers. I feel bad about that. I apologize. But yeah, they're all local. The Fighting Peaches. We cover the Panthers, the Owls, the Bulldogs, the Yellow Jackets, and even those Eagles down there in Georgia Southern. We're working on them. We're trying. But yeah, we cover all those college teams and really excited about that. But yeah, thanks for Keith for joining us and for the Owls as they progress. Really solid start to their season. And we'll see what else happens with them. As always, thanks for listening or watching this latest edition of Fighting Peaches. You can always go to our social media platforms on Twitter/X, Instagram, and Facebook, as well as going to our audio and video hosts, including YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, and more. Until next time, good fight, good night, and be safe.